Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fitz the King. You guys see the faces on the screen, and I got to tell you, this draft season, the whole goal for me has been to get as much information out there as possible. Yesterday, we had on Joe Hoyt on the channel. Zach is always on the channel, and he may use some of this for his channel. But we brought in the GOAT, the man behind the videos. Me and John do a show every week, and it gets crazy. But over here, we're going to keep it PG rated. We're just going to talk chalk. John Machota, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. Zach, how you doing as well?
I'm good. I think I say this every time, but kind of ready for the draft. Hurry up and get here.
Literally cannot get here fast enough. So today what I want to do is I had something else planned, but obviously Stephen Jones spoke today on 105.3 The Fan. And he spoke about possibly trading back. Now, this is a high-level conversation because, to me, who are you trading away from? And, does Dallas have the roster or the team to, hey, you know what? We're good here. We don't need to get this defensive man we have rated a certain place, or we don't need to get that receiver. We can take a step back and get more picks. How do you feel about that, John? Would you be okay with, first of all, trading away from a good player, a great player?
I would. Not far, but I would be willing to move back a little bit because, like we've talked about on our other show, I do think that they need 3 spots addressed in the first 2 days, so in the first 3 rounds, and that's running back, wide receiver, and corner. And so if you trade back a few spots in the first, then you could potentially get someone to give you their third, which obviously the Cowboys have done. See, that's the thing. I believe Steven when he says that about them trading back or the possibility of it, because they've done it 2 out of the last 4 years. They traded back last year with Tyler Guyton. They traded with Detroit to move back. I think it was 5 spots and took Guyton, got a third out of that. They used it on Cooper Beebe. And then a couple years before that, in the Micah Parsons draft, they moved back from 9 to 12 or 10 to 12. And then they got Chauncey Golston in the 3rd round. That's what they needed. I think that would be a good plan. Now, if there's a player that they love that falls to them at 12, well, don't be stupid. Take that player. If you love Tat McMillan, take Tat McMillan there. Don't be, or Ashton Jennings there and they love him. Don't move out of there just to move out. But I do think it makes a lot of sense to get that extra third because I don't think they're one player away. As much as I've said that for my own personal selfishness, I want them to trade up to get Travis Hunter to make my job more interesting. I don't know that that's the best thing for the team building part of it. So when he says that, I don't doubt that he means that. I also, by the way, wanted to add that I love when things like that happen because name another GM that's even doing, or an executive VP that's doing an interview right now this time of year and even saying something like that. And so in my timeline, I get these 2 different crowds and they both amuse me equally. It's why did they even do these interviews? These guys never say anything. That's one side. The other side is, why are they saying this stuff? Why do they give this stuff up? Whatever. So it's well, it's the Cowboys. They're going to put stuff out there. So it is funny how some people listen to it and they don't think it's anything. And then there's other people that are like me who are wow, I can't believe they even said that, because most teams aren't going to even reveal to you which way they're thinking or what the possibilities are. So, yeah, the Cowboys find a way to anger just about everybody, it seems like sometimes.
Zach, what you got on that topic, buddy?
I like the idea of trading back too. Dallas last year traded back. They got Tyler Guyton, the 3rd round pick that they picked up. It might end up being better than their 1st round pick. And like John said, Dallas isn't one player away. We do mock drafts. There's so many holes on this roster that we do a 7-round mock and we feel like we still have positions to address. So I'm with you, taking, running back, corner, wide receiver, those in the first 3 rounds. That would be the best move. And Dallas isn't going to pick up the phone and call other teams. So it feels like this is Steven's way of getting people to call them. We want to come up. But I like it. I like it too. It's something Dallas does all the time.
For me, fellas, and I love both of y'all responses. John, the first thing I thought was what you just said. Why would Steven say that? You think most GMs, and Steven it's crazy. It almost makes me think, John, he's playing chess. And y'all tell me, because most GMs they're going to keep it chalk, right? They're going to keep it Oh, well, we'll look at every option. Steven, and you know what else, John? He wasn't baiting into this question. He voluntarily, like I went and watched it, listened to the interview. He voluntarily, I don't see us moving up, but I definitely see us moving back. Those were his exact words. To me, John, I feel like, and I could be wrong, I feel like they're putting this cheese out there to possibly go up. I really think I've said this. If Ashton Genty gets past, I always say Oakland. Let me stop myself. If they get past Las Vegas, John, if Ashton Genty gets past Las Vegas, watch Dallas. I'm telling you guys now. I don't think it's Travis because you're not going to get to 3. You're not going to get to 4 up past the Patriots. But I think if Ashton Genty starts to even get a hair past the Raiders, like let's say the Raiders go name the corner. Let's say they go Will Johnson, which is very realistic no matter what Twitter says. Let's say they go Ted McMillan, no matter what Twitter says. And Ashton's sitting there and he gets past the Panthers. Interesting. So that's why, because I don't think what GM in their right mind would tell the world what we want to get out of there. It's not how you do business.
Yeah, like on the record, I mean, obviously there's stuff that gets out source wise that teams will like, there's rumors I saw when I was on Twitter earlier about San Francisco potentially wanting to move up, but to actually get your executive VP, number 2 in command to say that, I mean, and he also said it's because of looking at their board. And I think when he says that, it kind of lends itself to, I mean, I haven't studied this draft like you guys probably have, but I can tell you just off the top, it's not real sexy. It's not real. Right. I mean, go back to the show we did the other day, and people being critical of Ted McMillan. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, but this draft doesn't have Julio Jones. This draft doesn't have Aaron Donald. This draft doesn't have Joe Burrow. Like, this is a very, especially at the top, it's like, it's okay. It's not real star-studded. I don't see anybody trying to rush to get in there, get tickets to go fly to Green Bay for this draft. Like, it just is not a sexy draft at the top, is what I'm saying. I do think that there is depth to it. I do think that, especially for the Cowboys, I could see them finding, in that 3rd round, again, why I said trade back into 3rd round, I could see them getting 2 starters in the 3rd round. Yes. I could see them finding another Cooper Beebe type player, that's a 3rd round pick that you're like, hey man, that's a starter type, or a corner that ends up being, your replacement for Jordan Lewis. So that's the only reason why I just don't think that there's a lot of sexiness at the top that you'd really want to trade a bunch for to get up. Travis Hunter is obviously somebody that I think would be worthy of it. And to your point, yeah, if they really love Ashton Genty like that, I don't know that they love Ashton Genty like that, though.
That's fair.
To be willing to give up. I mean, you're talking, if you go from 12 to whatever, 6, 7, I mean, you're talking about possibly giving up next year's first. I don't know if they love him like that.
Yeah, that's the trade chart, which is fair, John. I just, if you got a team like, let's say you package one of those 5ths with maybe next year's 2nd, you've done business with Carolina because of you did trade with Mingo. So I don't know if you could jump in front of Carolina to jump the Bears. I'm with you. I'm with you, John. But when we talk about blue chippers, right, and everybody wants to poke holes in these blue chippers, to me, Tet is still one of my blue chippers. Whatever you think about him, Tet, Mason, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Abdul Carter. That's it. You don't put the quarterbacks as a blue chipper. These linemen.
What about Jalen Walker?
I don't have him as a blue chipper, John, and I really like him. But a blue chipper,
you guys think he's clearly the number 2 edge?
Zach?
I need to look at I have to look at my stack. I like Shamar Stewart a lot.
Okay.
I do too.
Cowboys had him on a 30 visit.
Yeah. And people say for some reason Shamar Stewart's like their nightmare pick. And I'm like, dude, we saw him at the Senior Bowl. He looked phenomenal, but it's like you were talking about, like this draft is just not like the top guys. You have about 5 or 6 and then about 14 total first rounders in general. So I'm wondering what the trade value chart even shows. Like, do you even have to give up a 2nd round pick to move up to 8 with Carolina? Like, yeah, you might not even have to give up that much, depending on the player there. You said that they're not really that interested in Ashton Genty, but if you are going to move up, 8 to Carolina seems like the most reasonable because I think Chicago is going to take him.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you this, John. you've been around Jerry Jones more than me and Zach probably could ever dream of. You think for 1 second, if Ashton Genty starts to fall, Jerry's not at least having a conversation, bringing home the hometown kid. He should have won the Heisman. I mean, it was him or Travis. Go ahead, John.
And I did say, I want to make sure I did say Jalen Walker, right? I didn't say Jalen Carter. I did say Jalen.
No,
Walker.
You said Jalen Walker.
Okay,
you said Jalen Walker.
Sure. I was in my head thinking, did I say Jalen Carter? But anyway,
no, you're good.
No, but knowing Jerry and being around him for the last 15 years, I don't see him piecing that together as easily as he would piece together the Travis Hunter, because I know how Jerry would be with Travis Hunter. It would be, well, we're going to get 2 players out of this. We're getting a corner and a wide receiver. So that's why we gave up next year's first. I can see Jerry saying that. Like, I could just write out his speech for how he would talk about it. I know that's how he would talk about it. If he was to get to, let's say, he would probably have to fall to 4 or 5, which is unlikely. You would need like probably another quarterback to go up there or something like that. It's highly, highly unlikely. But I'm saying with Jerry, I could see him selling that one. Like, comparing him to Dion. I mean, that's the sale right there for sure. Whereas I don't know as much if he could do that with Ashton Genty, at the running back spot.
And to be honest with you, John, that's been your take since we've been talking. It's crazy, Zach. Like, I feel like I talked to John as much as I talked to you. He has not waffled on Travis. And I agree. Like, not only that,
the team just gotten too boring. That's why I'm saying, like, that's the one move. They've gotten too boring with how they've done business. Way too boring for the Jerry Jones that I know. I'm talking about for multiple years now. So many moves, contracts, coaches, all that are just not very sexy. That would be the one sexy move. That's the one sexy card he could play. But all the other teams know that too. And so they would probably ask him for everything, They're not going to give the Cowboys a deal.
Zach, you
my
got
question
something?
would be, do they know that they're not a sexy team anymore? Like, is Jerry aware of that? Or do they think, like, we're going to do this the right way and, like, everybody's going to love it?
No, I think that they lean more into that. I mean, Steven definitely has. Steven and Will McClay, who runs their draft, their VP of player personnel, they have way more say than they probably did, 10 years ago. And now Jerry still has the final say, but he listens to those guys a lot. And so I think that probably has a little bit to do with it. But then he also listens to his coaches too, particularly, whoever he has as the head coach at the time. So, I mean, you just look at the moves they've made. They really haven't made many. I mean, you got to go back to probably the Morris Claiborne draft for the last time that they really traded up to take a big swing. And then in terms of like making a move with a veteran player, you got to go back to 2019 when they traded for Amari Cooper during the bye week and gave up that first round pick that year, which ended up not being a big loss for them at all. But but that's also the thing with Jerry, though, is that if you follow his track record, the sexy pick that he seems to always be attracted to the most is wide receiver. And so if his scouts, or Will, Steven could be like, hey, no, we do think this Travis Hunter could play both offense and defense, I don't think it would be hard to sell Jerry in that at all. But that's also that's asking a lot, considering that, I don't know, no one's done that.
I'll be honest with you, John. I told you this. Since I've watched this kid at Collins Hill, I do believe Travis can do it. Like, Travis is cut from a different cloth. I don't think that a lot of people really understand that kid eats, sleeps, and breathes football. He doesn't hang out, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. He like picked up fishing during COVID, and he fished a lot in Colorado. Like, I've really been watching this kid. It would be in a limited role, and I think that NFL teams would try to put him in a box. I think the one team that would probably adhere to his demands for ticket sales and just for ratings would be the Cowboys. The
positions he plays are 2 of their top 3 biggest needs. It'd be different if you tell me we're coming into this season, Jordan Lewis got re-signed, Trayvon Diggs is 100% healthy. That move doesn't make as much sense to me, but it's like corner they're hurt at so bad right now. And at wide receiver, I mean, they're open about that they need a number 2 wide receiver, and so that's the only reason why it just lines up in a lot of different spots. So,
no, and I agree. Zach, you got anything before we move to the next topic?
I think I just think about like the physicality of the NFL. Like, I know that he wants to, and he probably can conditioning wise, but just taking the hits, you can't really play part-time corner. So if you do want him to play both, it feels like he needs to be a full-time corner and then part-time wide receiver. He gets 10, 15 snaps a game. You have certain packages for him. He's your wide receiver too when he's on the field. So it's a tricky thing because you don't want to get him out there and he gets hurt in week 2 because he just played both positions for a full NFL game. So
yeah, I mean, the only reason I won't 100% count anything out with these guys is because, one, just seeing what LeBron James has been able to do. 2, seeing what Shohei Ohtani's been able to do. Like, these are things that I would have been like, no, there's never going to happen, true. And so I do think there is some advancements and some things with the way guys take care of their body. But to your point, I agree with you, Zach. Like, the idea of just taking those hits all the time, trying to be full-time wide receiver, while also it's not like he's going to be a slot corner that you're trying to be like, well, that's our third best. No, you're going to be putting him on good wide receivers. Like, he's going to be banging against like some of the best big body wide receivers out there. So I agree with that. I think that'd be a lot to ask, but kind of like the Ohtani thing, like, he wanted to go to teams that were going to allow him to do both. I mean, that's one of the reasons he went to the Angels. That's why he signed with the Dodgers. Obviously, a lot of money came with that too. But I think with Travis, he's going to want to do both, or it could become a distraction. And so you got to be willing to. You're not even doing this move though, if you're the Cowboys, unless you thought that you felt like he could possibly do both.
Then you got to think about the ties with Jerry, Dion. Jerry tells Dean, they had this conversation, and Jerry tells him, listen, Dion, can he do this? Dion has Jerry's number. Like, he's one of the few people who could just get straight through to Jerry. He can do this. Go get him. And that is a move. You're right. And the Cowboys have been born in, and talk about a splash. I think that would be good. High level conversation here, guys. I mean, I love when I can get Spicy John. Like, a year ago, I couldn't get Spicy John. And I tell people, you gotta really get to know John Machota, because he'll post the videos, but I mean, he is really good behind the mic. So thank you. And then obviously, Zach, thank you for making this thing work. So I got a few more scenarios and questions, and then I'll let both of you guys go, because this is one of those ones. We talk about trading back. And again, Steven has been not only out front about trading back, he's also been out front about we're drafting a receiver too, an explosive receiver too. Those are his exact words. We need an explosive receiver too. My thing is this, guys. Where's the cutoff for how far you would bail? Because I wrote some teams down. Denver, Pitts. I'm not getting back to 23 and praying. That's a lot of picks, a lot of guys. You know that voice when these guys start flying off the board. Oh, we could have. So I don't know if you guys had the draft order pulled up, but the teams that I have circled, and one that I have circled for a specific reason, but Denver, Pittsburgh, Seattle. Like, where's your guys' cutoff? I'll start with you, Zach. How far are you going back?
I think 20. I think 20 is about my cutoff for feeling comfortable. And a lot of people, like, the draft season's so long that they're like, oh, just trade back and get a Meke Buka, or trade back and get so-and-so. It's just, you start moving back 7, 8, 9, 10 spots. The guys that you like and that we've been talking about so much because Dallas is in that range are going to start coming off the board. And then you're sitting there like, oh, well, we thought he'd be here. I think 20 with Denver is probably, I know Pittsburgh doesn't have a second round pick or a third round pick. They don't have one of the two at 21. Yeah, I think the sweet spot for me, though, is probably 17, 18, if you can get back with Seattle.
Okay.
That'd probably be mine.
What about you, John?
Yeah, I'm looking at that now with the Steelers. So, yeah, so they have a third. They have 83, but it doesn't look like they have a second. So, yeah, I just think of the number of 20 as being as far as I'd want to go back. So yes. That is Denver. To go from 12 to 20, you should be able to get their third. Let's see, what do they have in the third? They have, a pick 85. Now this all depends on like who's there at 12, because that's the thing for them is, like, I know with the Guyton pick last year, they could have taken Guyton right there, but they felt like there was Guyton and a couple other players who were like, we can move back and then one of these guys will be here,
Yes.
So they'll have to feel that way about it. I find it hard to believe that you go further than 20 and still get, some of these guys that, you just look at some of their 30 visit guys. Like we already talked about Shamar Stewart. I mean, I don't know how much he's a 30 visitor, but is 20 too high for like a James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee? If they were to go there.
I don't know. We haven't talked about it, John, much on the channel. I love James Pierce. I think the only thing will be the character concern. And did they bring him in to just do homework on that? Is this a deflection deal? But I love Pierce, John. But
the other thing is how they feel with. So they visited with all those top 4 wide receivers. And when I say top 4, obviously I'm not counting Travis Hunter in there. So do they like all of them? If you told me right now that they like all 4 of those receivers and they would be just fine, and that there isn't one of them that they've completely been like, nah, we're not that interested, then I'd be like, oh yeah, they're definitely trading back, because there's a good chance if you just move back to 18, 19, 20, you're going to get, if it isn't Tat or Golden or Abuka, maybe it's Luther Burden, who knows? Because I mean, again, I never thought that you would get a talent like CeeDee Lamb in that 17 to 20 range. I never would have thought you could get a talent like, Justin Jefferson around there either. So you just never know what a team really wants. And so maybe, you could trade back 4 or 5 spots and still end up getting McMillan, because maybe some other teams like Golden Moore, something like that. But the receiver would be the one that I think it would be hard for them to move too far back, because that one makes the most sense. The other one that we just don't know a ton about because, well, he hasn't been a 30 visitor for them. And, they've kind of played it pretty good with the whole cornerback thing and how much they're interested there. But maybe they do really like Will Johnson, maybe they're not worried about him running 40s and things like that. And if that's the case, believe me, I understand Cowboys fans will be annoyed because he's a Michigan player and they're going to compare it to Mozzie Smith and Taco. But if they really like him, I just think corner makes a ton of sense too, right there, just because they need another big time corner. That's a big area of need there. I mean, hey, maybe Kyer Elam ends up being good, but I don't know that you can
bank on that.
Yeah, you can't bank on it, because I think ultimately what they want is they would like another outside guy, and in their perfect world, they would like Bland probably to be back in the slot, But by necessity, they've had to put him on the outside. But that's the only reason, unless you guys, what's his name's another corner, I guess, from Texas.
Janae Barron.
Yeah.
That could
be a possibility too.
And I have a theory, John. I don't think he's just higher on their board just because of the style of defense that Eberflus wants to play. I think it would be a guy like Zach's guy, Ben Morrison, maybe in the second round. That's their injury special. Max Harrison. I just think that. Go ahead, Zach.
No, that's the thing with second round. You can probably get a pretty good corner at 44. Now he has injury concerns. That's worked out for Dallas in the past. There's some there. Yeah, Ravel's there. Benjamin Morrison will probably be there with the hip. There's going to be some names in round 2. And to go really quick back to your point, if Dallas does get to 12 and 4 receivers that they like are on the board, if you go back, it's how many times have we seen runs in the draft, brutal runs? We'll see wide receivers get to 15, 16. Oh, dude, they're going to be there. They're going to be there. And then
Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah.
It takes one team, and next thing you know, they're just flying off the board one after the other. So
yeah. I wrote a thing for tomorrow.
I was just about to, this is one from Mark, because your article from 2 days ago, I was going to highlight that, but go ahead, John.
So I wrote about the 7 players that would kind of surprise you, we didn't think they'd take CeeDee Lamb with Caleb on Chasen on the board. We didn't think they would take Micah Parsons, whether they stayed at 10 or traded back with Philadelphia 2 spots, all of that. Today, 5 minutes before the draft started, none of that. You would never have guessed that was going to happen. And Jerry has confirmed as much since then. But so one of the guys I mentioned in there is that linebacker from Alabama, Jahad Campbell, where I'm just they don't really need a linebacker, but I didn't think they really needed an off-the-ball linebacker with Micah. And then they didn't just get an off-ball linebacker. They also got a linebacker that can rush the passer. And so that's one guy that would surprise me, but I don't think you can 100% say, nah, they're not doing that.
Yeah, that's true. No. And John, it's so crazy. I want to be Captain Petty, but I went back and looked at some of the takes when Micah was drafted. Oh my God. People hated capital H. I thought people hated the Tyler Smith pick. Oh, people hated the Micah Parsons pick. I ain't gonna call nobody out. It's gonna be messy, but they hate it. Now, Go ahead.
So
You got
after the first round's over, that we always have a press conference with Jerry and Steven, and Will's usually there too, and probably, the head coach. Okay. So at the time it was McCarthy. And so I will always remember that press conference because after they took Micah, that was during the COVID year. So that's still when we still had to wear masks and everything. And I actually have a picture of me and a couple other people wearing masks while we're talking to Jerry. So Jerry talks for about 15 minutes in the post-draft press conference and doesn't really even say that much about Micah as an edge rusher. He mentioned something real quick. So when we go, there was a little walk-off with about 5 of us to just talk to Jerry real quick while he was leaving. And I brought that up to him about well, what about as pass rusher? How much can you? Oh, we think he can do a lot of pass rushing, way more. And the answer was way better than anything he gave us. And it was one of those things where we're well, I'm not writing about anything else. I'm writing about this because that makes sense. That makes sense why you would take this guy at 12. And even at that time, they did not know he was going to be the pass rusher that he's become. But I will always remember Jerry saying that because I was that was the only time when I was, especially for someone like myself, that I have just downgraded the value of linebacker high in a draft. If you're a traditional off the ball, and when they took him, I'm really? They're doing this just an off the ball linebacker? But when he said the pass rush aspect, they're no, we think he can rush the passer a lot. I'm I was still skeptical because I'm Penn State's pretty good school. I understand that they had Jason Oweh at the time, but I'm thinking, why wouldn't they have done more of that? Now he did sit out the COVID year, Micah did to train and stuff, but I'm just the way he rushes the passer in the NFL now, you would have thought he would have had 15 sacks in the season at Penn State one year, And so that's the one thing that's fun about the draft is that you really don't know exactly, especially with those high round picks of how they're going to fit and, how quickly that they're going to adapt. So
if you redrafted Mike, he'd be the number 1 pick in that class. Wouldn't even be close. He would be the number 1. I'm trying to think.
Well, no, who was Burrow in that one?
That was Burrow, Herbert, Tua. Well,
okay,
no, that was
no.
CD.
Yeah, maybe I'm off on that.
No, I think that was the Pickett draft, guys.
Oh, you might be right.
I think look it up. I think
I
think but I mean the only other person you can make an argument for, I think, was Patrick Surtain. And I still think Micah's been better than Surtain. Micah came in the league as an all-pro, then second year was all-pro. Then I think he was second team all-pro last year, and then just he's been
Trevor Lawrence.
I think that he would go before Trevor Lawrence. If you look at where they've been, if you tell me that because Micah is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. He has that type of talent.
This is a good draft, though, when you look at it, man.
Who else? Oh, you know what? The tackle was in there.
Sewell, Jamar Chase. It's a really good draft.
Chase might be the one that you could argue for, but it is a good draft. That's a historical draft. But Micah be top 3 for sure, John. I would definitely stand on top 3.
Micah just recently posted a video on Instagram of practice all 22 from Penn State, and he's smoking the left, the right tackle, the left tackle, and I'm so they knew he could do it. He's just, nobody else did, but the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing about it. And it, like I said, I was going to ask you, John, but you kind of already answered it. Like I said, this is when we get spicy, John just, he does it. Because I was going to say, I read that article about the receivers and how you paired them. And I was going to ask you, okay, did you look at Burden as a second round guy? Would he be a trade back option? Emeka a trade back. I think like Zach said, but it was cool how you guys kind of fed off each other because Zach's right. We think that if you go back to, 18 or whatever, 20, Emeka is just going to be there. We don't know that. We don't know that a team doesn't have their eyes on Emeka Egbuka. They may say, we don't like this receiver class a lot. Egbuka is the sure thing, and that's the dangerous game you play when it comes to trading. It did work out last year because you were able to parlay that pick with Cooper Beebe, and Dallas loves their ability to draft certain things like that, but it's a dangerous game, and that's the beauty of it. That was the beauty of this conversation. I'll say this. Seattle has 10 picks, okay? That's the spot that I would look to move to. Let's say you don't love Ted, and let's say they do, and they need a true X. They have 2 slots, and Cooper Kupp and JSN. So maybe they say, hey, Dallas, come get a few of these picks. We'll move up. We'll swap with you. And they're not – I think they're at 18, Zach. Are you looking at it? I believe they're at 18.
Yeah, 18.
That's a safe spot for me because they're not going to draft Emeka Egbuka, and I don't even think they would draft Luther Burden because both of those guys really win in the same way. So I think that's where you could go still get a weapon or still get – we haven't even mentioned his name, but Mel Kiper has drafted him now 4 times to the Cowboys on Marion Hampton. right? Is there a chance that Denver says, you know what, we're coming up to get Hampton? They need a true back. Sean Payton loves a real runner to help out his young quarterback. So I think these are the things this is why I wanted to have this conversation, because I think that if they're trading back, first of all, you need to have a trade partner. Then you need to have a team with picks. So,
yeah, and I don't love anybody enough not to trade back a few spots. Like, there's not anybody that would realistically be there that I wouldn't be willing. Like, I don't love Hampton at 12, but if you tell me you're getting a third and then you're getting them at 16, 18 or something like that, like I wouldn't think that's a big deal. But I feel that same way about all those receivers too. Like, I don't know that I love them all at 12, but I feel like if you're getting another third round pick, you knock one of them out, you should be able to find another running back somewhere in that second round or with one of your 2 third round picks. And then that would put you in a pretty good spot to then also get a corner and then whatever else player that you like there with the other third round pick. So I think that's their best case scenario. But I guess we'll just see how the draft unfolds. I'll tell you the guy that I'm most interested in, no Cowboys ties, but the one I'm most interested in this draft right now is Jalen Milroe. He just, to me, it's got the total surprise everybody. Like, some team falls in love with him, and he people talk about Jackson Dart, and I just wonder, are any of those guys going to go earlier than people think, just because of the love of the quarterback, because that obviously helps the Cowboys because they're not going to draft a quarterback high. So you want as many quarterbacks to go, as high as possible. So
I'll say this, and Zach, I want your thoughts on it. I think that Pittsburgh was, I don't know, they like to draft, but you cannot tell me that Pittsburgh hasn't looked at how Philly plays football and said, man, I would love to have Jalen Milroe on our team. I think Seattle, who's to say that Sam Darnold is their future? They brought him in, but Mike McDonald, and I wrote this down on my notes, Mike McDonald was in that building with Lamar Jackson. Not saying that Milroe's Lamar Jackson, but if he can come in, sit for 2 years, that ability with the ball in his hands is special. So this is going to be interesting. Zach, did you have anything else for John before we let him go?
No, I think I'm good. I'm talking about the Jalen Milroe thing, a team falling in love. I maybe it's a little high, but New Orleans with Kellen Moore, how much success he had in Philly.
Why didn't I think of that, Zach? Oh my God, they just had Jalen.
It feels a little rich, but
quarterback
tax is real. Quarterback tax is real. Somebody's gonna draft him higher, I think, than we expected.
Yeah, and I'm always just with any of these quarterbacks, I just know that those teams love getting that. You take them in the first, you get that 5th year option. They love having that because it gives you an extra year to maybe sit the guy, even though we all know that sitting these guys is so unrealistic because the fans are going to want to see them immediately. But he's just one of those players that I'm always trying to think of going in the draft. Okay, who's going to be the one that really surprises people that goes higher than maybe they think? And so I'm just wondering about those quarterbacks because I don't think any of the quarterbacks are great per se, but teams always draft quarterbacks. So
yeah, and I'll say this in closing. I honestly, you said Milroe. My antennas for the Saints have been Dart. I think for some reason, Dart is just man, I'm telling you, I will never forget when what's the quarterback from the Giants that they just let go?
Daniel Jones.
I'll never forget when he went that high. I literally, my jaw hit the ground. I was like, are you kidding me? But that's what happens with those quarterbacks, guys.
Well, I'll tell you the guy that I never liked at all. I'll never forget being at the combine and just getting some lunch with Dane Brugler. And this is I want to say this is a full year before he got drafted. But I'll never forget Dane being like, oh, no. And that draft, the next one, man, that's Zach Wilson from BYU. He's going to be a top 5 pick. I'm like, stop this right now. A BYU quarterback like that, we are not doing this. And sure enough, he was right. He goes second. I'm just I never thought for any chance that was going to be a success. But then again, we're always wrong. And I thought Josh Rosen would be a good, I didn't think he'd be great, but I thought he would be in the league playing for a team, So I guess it is what it is. But Zach Wilson, I never got the love for Zach Wilson that people had. But
the pro day, look at him.
Is that what it was? God. I don't remember
one off-platform throw.
Oh, he had a throw. He had to throw. But I'll tell you this: now, John, now we do doing story time. And this is man, thank you guys both. I got it. You just threw me an alley-oop. Bro, he played against Coastal Carolina, and I'll never forget this that year. And he got so ruffled. Like they were just like kind of dirty, but not really. And he was just like, his mental, he was just like falling all over the place. He was mad, looking for flags. I'm like, that game, I say, this kid ain't gonna make it. I'm like, if you think that's bad, wait till you play, Micah or a defense that's gonna hit you late and be chippy and the Eagles. You ain't gonna make it. You're mentally not tough.
And let me be fair on this too, because I know Zach Wilson's probably watching. No, the biggest thing that I know people talk about, but I don't think it's talked about enough, where you get drafted matters so much for these quarterbacks too. You tell me Zach Wilson gets drafted to a different team and everything sets himself up. Like I thought that Trevor Lawrence is like a once in 10-year type quarterback prospect, and he obviously hasn't lived up to that. But there is always a part of me where I'm like, well, what if he goes to the Eagles or somebody else that has like the San Francisco or something like that? Is he struggling? Like, is anybody pulling out of the mud in Jacksonville? And the same thing with Zach Wilson. Like, I mean, the Jets have just, I don't know. The real test that we're going to get out of this is Caleb Williams, because I think Caleb Williams is still going to be successful, and the Bears has just been forever since they've had good quarterback play. So he'll be the one to prove if it can really happen or not, I think.
Man, John, thank you so much. Like I said, you are a friend now. I call you a friend. I appreciate you doing this. Zach, thank you again. Zach, you got anything before we go?
No, I'm good. I thank you for coming on. Really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Who's your sleeper pick? Give me a sleeper pick, like for the Cowboys that you think might be like outside of the box or something like that. Because there's a part of me that thinks like an offensive lineman. I know the fans would hate that.
Crazy that Dallas consistently drafts them. It definitely makes sense. Yeah. A name that would be interesting, and maybe it would be your second option on offense, Tyler Warren from Penn State, the tight end. No, you don't need tight end. You have Jake Ferguson, all that. But the idea, like, dude's massive, reminds me of Gronkowski, catch the ball, he can block. That would be an interesting one. Just throwing the ball. Brock Bowers had 110, 120 catches as a rookie. Him and CD.
What do you think's the highest he goes?
I think he'll go inside the top 10.
Yeah.
I don't think that he gets past Denver. And the only reason, I think there's been some talk about like him versus Loveland. And you being in Michigan, you Florida State guy, my bad.
Yeah, I root against Michigan. You root against Michigan. Very, very diehard Michigan.
And trust me, everybody listening to this doesn't want to hear the word Michigan, but I think that Loveland,
especially tight end.
Good. Oh yeah, no, yeah. But that's a good one, Zach. I'll tell you mine. And people got really mad at me on Twitter. It's Shamar Stewart. I think this Zach. And the only reason why, John, is because seeing is believing. I really challenge like people. If you just talk to people who were at the combine, and Dane was there, and I think that's why Dane has him rated. I think Dane has him as like his 5th rated player or 6th rated player on his board. John, was the most imposing defensive player at the combine. Like during team, it wasn't close. I know people like Mike Green and they like what he brings, but I'm just telling you, like I don't have any dog in the fight. You talking about stacking the run, being active versus the run, then the pass rush stuff. And people have to remember, he's not going to get attention in Dallas. Attention goes to 11. He just has to do his job. So that would be the one for me.
But that doesn't bring you any concerns, though, in terms of, because whenever you guys use a high round pick, I'm always just like, okay, well, what do they think about the rest of the group? And I've just heard so many good things about what their expectations are for Sam Williams this year. And then obviously I just used the 2 on Marshawn Nealon last year. Like, it would make me wonder if they did take an edge rusher there. Like, are you not as sold on Sam Williams? Are you not as sold on Nealon? Because we know that Micah's not going anywhere. Yeah. So or am I reading too deep into it to where they're just like, no, he's just, let's say they go with Stewart or something. Is that just the best player? This guy's so much better than everybody else is there. We just have to stack him up. Like, we've got to take the best player.
I always like to look at like where they put their resources, because they got Dante Fowler. They spent a second on Marshawn Nealon. They're about to pay Micah the highest defensive contract in NFL history. Like, edge seems like the least needed. Like when I think of it from their perspective, like look at all that we've put into this room. Surely another position makes more sense to help us now. I like Shamar Stewart a lot, but as many holes as Dallas has, I'm not sure I'd be that interested.
And the flip side would be,
I mean, he's one of, as of right now, they brought in him as a 30 visit, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, and Pierce. Like, they can't possibly bring in those guys in because they're like, oh no, those guys will be there possibly in the second round. Like, those have to be maybe not 12, but trade back guys, whatever. Why would they bring them all in there if there's and then I mean, Steven said as much at the owners' meetings a couple of weeks ago that he broke down every one of the guys we just talked about, but then he said, edge rusher is still, pass rusher is still a position we look at in any round. And then obviously to have those 30 visits with those guys, that's why I just don't think you can completely rule that out.
Not only can you not rule it out, John, but as much as they said about Sam Williams, we still have to see it. And with Aaron Whitecotton, he has had D lines that rotated, and we all champion the Eagles. I'm not mad at making something that we think, okay, let's say Sam Williams is great. Cool. Shelf Stewart or rotate Stewart and just keep waves of pass rush coming. Like, I don't think anybody would be mad at having Micah Stewart, a great Sam Williams, Nealon playing the run, Mozzie turning up. Like, I don't think so. I hear both sides of the argument, and I wouldn't be mad at it. I just think that would be my surprise, especially John, if Genty's gone, none of the quarterbacks go. Like, let's say Shedeur Sanders falls out the first round, and like all this stuff happens, and weapons go off the board early, and like they don't love Matthew Golden for whatever reason. It could happen. So, hey, man, I thank you guys so much for joining us. John Machota, thank you, man. Zach, Double Move, you guys make sure you check out his channel. Also, check out me and Zach have been working on a draft guide. I will put the link to the description. I will put the link in the description box. We're going to try to get to 150 players, and we'll keep updating this thing. It won't be the Beast. It won't be Dane Brugler. But, hey, look, John, name drop Dane. So maybe next year we'll have a mini Beast. We'll have more, but we've tried our hardest to give you guys an interactive piece of work. So, as always, guys, your boy Foots the King. Thank you. I love you all. Peace.